You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Today, LSU launched their new collective, which they're calling Bayou Traditions. This, of course, is an NIL Collective. And for those that don't know, just to sort of oversimplify it, the collective is an organization operated independently of the university that, well, it's weird to say because it's being promoted through the university and with LSU SP, sports properties, and a lot of other things. So the lines are blurred, but just understanding, it's kind of odd because whenever we have the NIL conversations, there's just a lot of semantics that go into it. But I think you all understand what I'm saying. The collective is basically not a university entity. It's operated independently. It raises funds to distribute NIL opportunities to LSU student athletes. And we have told you about a lot of these collectives and the work that they have done in a lot of different places around the country. And LSU has now finally launched theirs. It's called Bayou Traditions is the name of the collective. And they did release a video earlier today that featured, among others, Tyrann Mathieu. Here's how it's about a minute long. Here you go.
Down in the bayou, we have a rich history of traditions. They're deeply rooted, like the stately oaks that line the streets, and they bring us together, like the tiger that roams in their shadows. It is the march down Victory Hill and the golden band from Tigerland. It's Friday night at the box, Saturday night in Death Valley.
And it will be Saturday night in Death Valley.
It's sticking the landings and earning a crown. It's going low and leaping high. It's the Sanday Tiggs and P-Mac Magic. It's the unforgettable taste of a tailgate and the indescribable touch of the wind bar. Tradition is iconic. It stands the test of time. It's cemented forever. Tradition is ours to care for and to carry them forward on for generations to come. Join our newest tradition by supporting Bayou Traditions today.
Bayou Traditions, again, that's the launch. Tyrann Mathieu narrating there. If you're not watching, if you're listening, you heard it there. So LSU getting in on the collecting. By the way, spectacular job. I think Cody Worsham writes those, the scripts, those videos. Cody's obviously very talented, been in media for a long time now, working at LSU. I would assume Cody wrote that. But in LSU's media production arm, over the past 3 years or so, certainly, they've just been incredible. The amount of content they produce, the quality of content they produce is awesome. So really well done there as they announced and launched Bayou Traditions. A couple of things, though, that came out to mind. And we do have our Citizens Bank and Trust poll question of the day is up on the 1045 ESPN Twitter feed. I'm curious if, and I really want, that's a lot of reallys. I really want you to give me some feedback here because I'm curious if you plan to contribute. Because part of Bayou Traditions is it enables fans to support the NIL efforts. So you could do a one-time or monthly contributions or in whatever amount you want. So fans can contribute. You don't have to feel like a booster donating millions of dollars. You can contribute whatever you want. So I'm curious if you will contribute. As it says in the release, each level of support unlocks additional benefits for fans, etc. So please go vote in the poll question at 1045 ESPN on Twitter. There's a few things. First and foremost, this is so important. It is so important to have this now launched and organized. Most recently with the signing date, the early signing period, we talked even further about the involvement of collectives. The most notable story was Florida signee Jaden Rashada, right? Quarterback, 5-star. He reportedly had a $13 million NIL deal through the Gator Collective. Now, apparently, the direct deposit didn't hit, so he asked out of his NIL or his LOI, his letter of intent, excuse me, and he'll go elsewhere. But I mean, we've shared some of these numbers publicly. Ole Miss's collective has raised north of $11 million. Auburn's north of $13 million. You have places like Texas Tech and SMU, which are paying every scholarship football player over $20,000. It's incredible the amount of money a lot of these collectives have already raised and are contributing and committing to NIL opportunities for their student athletes in all sports. And LSU was very far behind. And I understand, and this isn't like it's not a criticism or anything, it's just the reality of it. Like there are certain realities that LSU is going to face that we've talked about since NIL went live. LSU is never going to compete at that level. You're never going to see LSU doling out the types of money that Texas A&M has or some of these other programs that have their cash cows that they can milk for as much as they need. It's been an expensive couple of years in Baton Rouge. You fired Ed Ogeron, paid his staff $20 million to go away. You committed $100 million to Brian Kelly. You committed money to Kim Mulkey, north of $2 million a year. Obviously, Jay Johnson came in. Paul Maneri retired. You had to hire Matt McMahon, give him an 8-year contract. It's been an expensive couple of years. And while LSU has wealthy boosters, maybe the roster isn't as long as other places. So when you keep shaking the same trees, it's tough. And but this is a jolt that LSU needs to catch up. They may never be at that level as some of the others that I mentioned, but the lack of organization has hurt LSU. And now they're finally organized and ready to roll. There was another collective, Go Enterprises, which was operating and was operating inefficiently, and it raised north of $2 million. And we're going to ask, when Brent Cunningham is with us, we're going to ask him about what happens there, because my understanding is that Bayou Traditions will absorb Go Enterprises. But we'll get some clarification on that coming up. But if you remember, I know a lot of people fought back and pushed back on this. When NIL went live last July, or 2 summers ago, a year and a half ago, LSU went to Times Square. They took Olivia Dunn, and they basically had the billboard. It was NILSU and all that sort of stuff. And LSU was, hey, we're open for business. And the thing I said at the time, which is proven to be true, is it doesn't matter if you go to Times Square and do this big we're open for business thing. What they didn't do was organize their boosters and fund their collective. LSU hadn't done that. And it was very disorganized, which is why you needed someone like Gordon McKernan who stepped up when he did and said, man, forget this. I'm just going to do it myself, which he did. Now, the flip side of that is it's going to be hard, I think, to get a guy like Gordon to stop doing what he's doing, because if I'm Gordon McKernan and I could take my money that I've committed for NIL deals and go do deals directly with the athletes and use it for my advertising, why would I just take the money and put it in a collective and let them decide how it's distributed? That doesn't benefit me, right? Now, I'm not speaking for Gordon, and he and I have not had this conversation, to be very, very clear and candid. But do you understand why it wouldn't make sense for Gordon McKernan to participate in the collective? Because if he goes and takes, throw out a number, $100,000, $500,000. I think he told Jacques Doucet on the record the number was somewhere near like $750,000 he spent. Okay, if I'm Gordon McKernan and I could take that $750,000, would I just put it in the collective and let them decide what to do with it, or spend it how I want to spend it and do deals and put up billboards and do TV ads and radio ads and all that stuff how I want to do it? That's going to be one hurdle. Another obstacle is, and this isn't unique to LSU, this is an obstacle that every school is going to face. And it's the internal competition for those dollars. Here's what I mean. The Tiger Athletic Foundation still exists. TAF is the fundraising arm of LSU athletics. So scholarships, facilities, things that are sports specific, operational support. I mean, a lot of coaches' contracts, the salaries aren't paid through the university or the athletic department. They're paid through TAF. When LSU wants to expand Tiger Stadium or build the gymnastics facility or whatever it may be, the fundraising goes through TAF. Well, now TAF and Bayou Traditions, the collective, are adversaries because both are trying to raise money, and they're both going to the same people trying to raise money. So the question is, and this is the unknown, and I don't have the answer. Only time will tell here. Will LSU boosters, and this is why I asked you the question, like, will you contribute? Will LSU donors, fans, boosters, whatever, increase the amount that they're giving, such as to give both to TAF and to Bayou Traditions? Or will they take the same amount of money and split it? And if that's the case, well, then TAF's revenue goes down, or Bayou Traditions doesn't reach a level that they might want to. And that's something that, again, I don't have an answer to. Nobody does. It's really just going to be a matter of waiting to see how this plays out. Now, if you wanted a prediction, my guess is over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years, whatever it may be, you are going to see a lot of the NIL monies scaled back because of what happened at Texas A&M last year. I think more NIL opportunities are going to be committed to retention instead of recruitment. How do we take care of our athletes that are here instead of how do we get athletes here? It's not to say it's going to be true everywhere, and it's not to say that there won't be NIL opportunities for athletes to come to LSU. But I think primarily that's what you will see happen as we move through. But I think it's a fascinating time, and during COVID, so many people use the phrase "we're building the bridge as we cross it." Some people will say we're building the plane as we fly it. That's what NIL feels like in many respects. But when LSU went to New York City and Times Square and did the NIL LSU launch and purported to be at the forefront, the problem was, while yes, they were saying we're open for business, when a lot of people were still pushing back against NIL, the problem is they didn't organize. And now a year and a half later, they're finally organized. That's the good news, is now you get this jolt and you'll start the process of catching up to everybody else to whatever degree that you can. But make no mistake, when I was telling you LSU is behind in NIL, you're now seeing it. They're at least a year and a half behind everybody else as far as fundraising for a collective. Well, the collective is now launched. What can it become? That's going to be a really interesting conversation to watch to see what type of support it gets, and from both top level donors and Joe fan like you and me. So, and yeah, it's going to be a big role into the future success of LSU athletics. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.